Tonight, we will discover together the story of a man who changed the course of history. The young Sultan, who at 21 destroyed the 1,000-year Byzantine Empire, conquered Istanbul, and established an empire that ruled over 3 continents. Fatih Sultan Mehmed. Was he really the greatest conqueror history has seen? Or was he a visionary leader who changed the fate of the empire forever? Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also write in the comments which characteristic of Fatih impressed you the most. Sometimes in history, a single decision by one person can change the entire world. When Mehmed was born in Edirne on March 30th, 1432, while he was still a baby, no one could know that an extraordinary destiny awaited him. His father, Murad II, was one of the most powerful sultans of his era, and his mother, Huma Hatun, was a woman surrounded by mysteries. According to some sources, she was of French origin, according to others, Bulgarian. This uncertainty was perhaps the first sign of the multiculturalism in Mehmed's personality. His childhood was not like that of an ordinary prince. Murad II sent him to Amasya at an early age, wanted him to gain governing experience. A 6-year-old child assuming such heavy responsibilities shaped his character early. The years he spent in Amasya both developed his leadership skills and matured him at an early age. The education he received during this period was also very comprehensive. Not only Turkish and Arabic, but he also learned Persian, Greek, Latin, Italian, Serbian, and many other languages perfectly. This language ability would provide him great diplomatic advantages in the future. He also acquired deep knowledge in mathematics, astronomy, history, philosophy, and literature. He particularly studied the lives of Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar, knew war tactics by heart, and analyzed victory methods. The teachers who participated in Mehmed's education were the most distinguished scholars of the era. Molla Gurani taught mathematics and philosophy. Molla Yegan was responsible for astronomy. Akshemseddin both provided spiritual guidance and developed strategic thinking. This multifaceted education prepared Mehmed not only as a warrior, but also as a statesman. The experience of ascending the throne at an early age in 1444 was a great learning opportunity for Mehmed. His father, Murad II, withdrew from the throne and made Mehmed Sultan at 12 years old. During this period, he worked closely with state dignitaries, janissaries, and viziers for the first time. Although he experienced difficulties, this experience taught him the state mechanism. The difficulties during the Varna battle crisis gave Mehmed valuable lessons. Facing the advance of Crusader armies toward Bulgaria, he grasped the importance of strategic thinking, crisis management, and quick decision-making. Although he was forced to ask his father for help, this process provided him practical experience in leadership. During this period, Mehmed's abilities to establish political relations also developed. At meetings with Venetian ambassadors, he could speak directly in Italian without needing a translator. When negotiating trade agreements with Genoese merchants, he used his mathematical knowledge and surprised them. These early diplomatic experiences prepared him for the difficult negotiations he would face in the future. During the Treaty of Szeged process, with Hungarian King Vladislaus III, Mehmed was not a passive observer. During discussions of treaty articles, he actively expressed opinions, particularly offering detailed proposals on border arrangements. When he learned that the Crusader coalition decided to break this treaty and attack, he wrote a letter to his father Murad II, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation. In the second period he spent beside his father, Mehmed learned real politics and strategy in depth. He took an active role in Murad II's campaigns to Hungary, observed war tactics in the field, participated in diplomatic processes. Most importantly, he learned how his father established relationships with statesmen and how he motivated them. These years taught him that he needed to be not only powerful, but also intelligent and visionary. When Mehmed ascended the throne again in 1451, after the death of Murad II, he was now a completely different leader. Although he was 19 years old, he was an experienced, determined sultan with clear goals. His first task was to reorganize the state structure. He kept the current talented viziers in office, integrated new ones into the system, modernized the army, and strengthened the financial structure. During this period, his closest vizier and advisor was Chandarlı Halil Pasha. Halil Pasha was an experienced statesman and gave Mehmed advice, especially on diplomatic matters. However, over time disagreements would arise between them about the conquest of Istanbul. While Halil Pasha suggested a more cautious policy, Mehmed pursued great goals. After ascending the throne, Mehmed's first diplomatic move was to send peace messages to European states. He sent ambassadors to Venice, Genoa, Hungary, Serbia, and Byzantium, informed them he intended to live in peace. This move was a tactical maneuver to reassure his enemies. In reality, Mehmed, who was making plans for Istanbul, needed to stall his enemies until the moment of attack. At meetings with Byzantine Emperor Constantine XI, Mehmed behaved like a masterful diplomat. He expressed to the emperor that he could increase the annual gold payment amount. In return, peace could continue. Constantine did not understand the trap in this offer, could not perceive Mehmed's real intentions. The decision to conquer Istanbul was Mehmed's most strategic and visionary move. This decision had not only military, but also economic, political, and symbolic dimensions. Destroying the Byzantine Empire that had stood for 1,000 years meant making the Ottoman Empire a world power. Moreover, control of Istanbul would provide complete dominance over the trade routes between Europe and Asia. The preparation process for the siege of Istanbul revealed Mehmed's organizational genius. As a first step, he had Rumeli Fortress built in the north of the city. This fortress was not only a military structure, but also an open message sent to the Byzantines. Control of the Bosphorus was now in Ottoman hands, and there was no escape route left. During the fortress construction, Mehmed also showed his engineering talents. He personally drew the plans of the structure, closely followed the construction process, motivated the workers. The fortress was completed in 4 months, and this speed surprised all of Europe. Completing such a large project in such a short time was proof of Ottoman organizational power. With the completion of the fortress, Mehmed began to change the political balances in Europe. Genoese merchants now had to pay taxes to the Ottomans for passage through the Bosphorus. Venetian ships had to comply with new rules. This situation created great panic in the Byzantine palace in Istanbul. Diplomatic contacts accelerated. The most impressive aspect of the siege preparations was the production of the largest cannons of the era. Evaluating the proposals of Hungarian engineer Orban, Mehmed decided on the construction of massive cannons. These cannons were so large, they needed hundreds of oxen to be transported, but their capacity to destroy the walls was tremendous. During work with Orban, Mehmed's technical curiosity emerged. He learned the intricacies of cannon making, researched methods to make gunpowder more effective, took an active role in range calculations. This scientific approach played a critical role in the success of the siege. Throughout this process, Mehmed's political relations with Europe became complicated. Hungarian King Matthias Corvinus wanted to secretly send military aid to Byzantium, but the Ottoman intelligence network learned of these plans and took necessary measures. Secret negotiations with the Venetian Republic also continued. The Venetians wanted trade privileges in exchange for remaining neutral. When planning the siege strategy, Mehmed used both traditional and innovative methods. He besieged the land side of the city with very strong artillery units and controlled the seaside with the navy. But the most important innovation was psychological warfare tactics. He sent letters to the city population, informing them they would be safe if they surrendered. At the same time implied what could happen in case of resistance. When the siege officially began on April 6th, 1453, the quality of Mehmed's preparation emerged. The city was surrounded from three sides. Cannons were positioned. Logistics were completely organized. The first cannon shots shook the walls and broke the Byzantines' morale. But the real shock was the transportation of ships overland. Since the entrance to the Golden Horn was closed with chains, the Ottoman navy could not enter there, which made the siege difficult. Mehmed's solution went down in history. Overnight, he dragged about 70 ships overland and lowered them into the Golden Horn. Special roads were built for this operation. Ships were placed on oiled logs. Thousands of soldiers carried out the dragging operation. This move created enormous psychological impact, besides military results. When the Byzantines suddenly saw Ottoman ships in the Golden Horn, which they considered safe, they were shocked. The city's defense plans were turned upside down. Morale completely collapsed. This tactic was the best example of Mehmed's creative strategic genius. Throughout the siege process, Mehmed's leadership qualities emerged in all their glory. In the middle of the night, he would leave his tent and walk through the trenches, chat with soldiers, listen to their problems. Sometimes he would gird his sword and stand guard, sometimes visit wounded soldiers. This close attention increased the soldiers' loyalty to him and brought motivation to its peak. During the siege, Mehmed's relationships with viziers were also notable. Chandarlı Halil Pasha was worried about the prolongation of the siege and suggested peace negotiations. But Mehmed was determined and never deviated from his goal. Young viziers like Zahanos Pasha and city administrator Suleiman Bey supported the Sultan's vision. Before the conquest of Istanbul, Mehmed also continued his diplomatic initiatives. He held meetings with the Genoese, persuading them to remain neutral. Thanks to the secret agreement made with the Genoese colony in Galata, logistical support was provided to Ottoman ships during the siege. This diplomacy played a critical role in achieving victory. During the same period, he also made contact with the Hungarians, ensuring there would be no attack from behind. Facing Corvinus gathering a large army on the banks of the Danube, Mehmed conducted secret negotiations with Wallachian voivode Vlad. Vlad prevented Corvinus's interference in Istanbul by disturbing the southern borders of Hungarian armies. Finally, on May 29th, 1453, the decisive moment came. Mehmed launched the final assault, and Istanbul's walls were breached. Constantine XI defended his city to his last breath and lost his life fighting. With the conquest of Istanbul, Mehmed had not only taken a city, he had changed the course of history. Now he had earned the title Fatih, meaning conqueror. His policies after the conquest also showed Mehmed's art of state governance. He began to restore the city, repaired damaged buildings. He converted Hagia Sophia into a mosque, but preserved its architectural features. He granted religious freedom to Christian and Jewish peoples, placed them under protection. He encouraged migration to Istanbul from other cities, and aimed to create a multicultural metropolis. After the conquest, he made changes in the vizier corps. He dismissed Jandarlı Halil Pasha and appointed Mahmud Pasha in his place. Mahmud Pasha came from Byzantine aristocracy, knew Greek and Latin, mastered European culture. This appointment was an indicator of Mehmed's pragmatic approach. The repercussions of Istanbul's conquest in Europe were tremendous. Pope Nicholas III sent letters to all Christian princes calling for a new crusade. Venetian Doge Francesco Foscari called an urgent Senate meeting to discuss how they would protect their interests in the Mediterranean. French King Charles VII began to develop a policy of rapprochement with the Ottomans. In the period after the conquest of Istanbul, Mehmed's goals continued to grow. The principalities in Anatolia were completely eliminated. Sinop, Amasra, Trabzon were conquered one by one. During these campaigns, Mehmed tried different tactics, sometimes siege, sometimes diplomacy, sometimes economic pressure. In the conquest of Sinop, Mehmed's maritime vision emerged. Before besieging the city, he had a strong navy built and secured naval superiority in the Black Sea. In negotiations with the Isfendiyaroğulları Principality, Mehmed offered the Bey a respectable position in Istanbul, achieving surrender without bloodshed. In the conquest of Trabzon, Mehmed's diplomatic ability came to the fore. He conducted negotiations with the Komnenos dynasty, offered them respectable positions in Istanbul. Thanks to this approach, the city was taken without bloodshed. The local population also easily accepted Ottoman rule. The process of turning the Black Sea into a Turkish lake was carried out systematically. Caucasian emirates were conquered one by one. Ottoman influence in Georgia and Abkhazia was strengthened. During this process, Mehmed not only used military power, but also made trade agreements. By educating the children of Caucasian princes in Istanbul, he raised the future generation of leaders within the Ottoman system. During this period, Mehmed's political relations with Iran also became complicated. Border agreements made with Shah Ismail, founder of the Safavid state, determined both sides' spheres of influence in eastern Anatolia. There were constant diplomatic tensions over trade routes between Tabriz and Erzurum, and from time to time, small-scale border clashes occurred. The campaigns in the Balkans were more complex because there he encountered powerful enemies. In the conquest of Serbia, there were long struggles with the Branković dynasty. Mehmed here used both military operations and political intrigues. He drew local beys to his side, isolated those who made alliances with the Hungarians. At meetings with Serbian despot Đurađ Branković, Mehmed displayed skillful diplomacy. First, he created a blood bond by marrying Branković's daughter, then guaranteed his loyalty by keeping his son Stefan as hostage in Istanbul. Thanks to this marriage diplomacy, most of Serbia came under Ottoman sovereignty without conflict. In the conquest of Bosnia, Mehmed's tolerance policy came to the fore. Bosnians of the Bogomil sect easily accepted Ottoman rule because they knew their religious freedoms would be protected. This approach provided long-term stability in the region. At the final meetings with King Stefan Tomasz, Mehmed guaranteed that his properties would be protected, but proclaimed in clear terms that political sovereignty would pass to the Ottomans. In Albania, however, epic struggles occurred with Skanderbeg. Skanderbeg was an experienced warrior and knew the Albanian mountains very well. Mehmed here had to develop new tactics against guerrilla warfare. He established a fortress system, strengthened logistic lines, and gained local allies. In the wars with Skanderbeg, besides Mehmed's military genius, his diplomatic cunning also emerged. He managed to draw some of the Albanian princes to his side. He applied economic pressure to cut the support the Venetians gave to Skanderbeg. As a result of this multidimensional struggle, Albania also came under Ottoman sovereignty. Throughout these campaigns, Mehmed's innovations in army organization were notable. He modernized the Janissary Corps, established artillery units, developed the logistics system. Besides Akıncı units, he strengthened regular army units. This hybrid structure provided the Ottoman army great advantage. The greatest difficulty Mehmed faced in campaigns to Hungary was the resistance led by Matthias Corvinus. Corvinus was a talented commander and diplomat. He had formed an alliance with the Poles, drawn Wallachia and Moldavia to his side. Against this coalition, Mehmed applied a multidimensional strategy. First, he strengthened the vassals in Wallachia and Moldavia. He established complex diplomatic relations with Vlad the Impaler and Stephen the Great. He pursued pragmatic policies with these beys, who were sometimes allies, sometimes rivals. At secret meetings with Stephen the Great, Mehmed tried to distance him from the Hungarian alliance by giving him autonomy guarantees. His relationship with Vlad the Impaler showed a constantly changing dynamic. He made concessions when necessary to reach his goal. In operations in Hungary, Mehmed's engineering knowledge also emerged. He had special bridges built for river crossings, designed siege machines, opened new roads for logistics. Temporary bridges built over the Danube River were great engineering achievements for that period. This technical approach played an important role in the success of the campaigns. In the diplomatic war with Corvinus, Mehmed skillfully used the Hungarian king's conflicts of interest with Austria and Bohemia. He tried to ensure they would not support Corvinus by sending secret messages to the Habsburg dynasty. This multi-front diplomacy weakened Hungarian resistance. Besides successes in Europe, Mehmed was also active in Asia. He eliminated the Dulkadirolere Principality, fought with the Akoyunlu, had border conflicts with Safavid Iran. He applied different tactics on each front, developed strategies appropriate to local conditions. In the struggle with the Dulkadirolere Principality, Mehmed's strategic patience emerged. He managed to create a civil war by stoking dynastic fights within the principality. Then he made the winning side dependent on him by supporting them. With this method, he added Dulkadir territories to Ottoman sovereignty without entering a major war. In eastern campaigns, Mehmed's greatest rival was Uzun Hasan. The Akoyunlu leader had formed a powerful coalition, was receiving support from the Venetians and other European states. In this multi-front struggle, Mehmed used both diplomacy and war. Thanks to secret negotiations with the Venetians, he managed to reduce the support they gave Uzun Hasan. During war preparations with Uzun Hasan, the strength of Mehmed's intelligence network emerged. The movements of the Akoyunlu army were known days in advance. Countermeasures were planned accordingly. Spies in Tabriz provided detailed information about Uzun Hasan's plans. In the Battle of Otlukbeli, besides Mehmed's military genius, his risk-taking ability also emerged. He had undertaken a long campaign, fought under difficult geographical conditions, but in the end achieved a great victory. This success consolidated Ottoman hegemony in the east. After the battle, he completely ended Akoyunlu power by skillfully using the throne struggles among Uzun Hasan's sons. Border agreements with the Safavid state were another example of Mehmed's diplomatic talent. At meetings with Shah Ismail, balanced agreements were signed considering both sides' interests. The Tabriz-Erzurum trade line contributed to the economic gain of both states. The Italian campaign was Mehmed's largest and most ambitious project. Taking Rome was not only a military, but also symbolic goal. The saying, "He who takes two Romes will take the third," showed how big his dreams were. He prepared for this goal for years. The diplomatic dimension of the Italian campaign was also very complex. The secret alliance agreement made with French King Louis I was aimed at breaking the Habsburg encirclement. Louis wanted to put Austria and Spain in a difficult position by supporting Mehmed's invasion of Italy. This alliance completely changed European political balances. Negotiations with Venice were even more complex. The Venetians were uncomfortable with the Ottoman navy entering the Adriatic, but because of commercial interests did not want to enter open war either. Mehmed skillfully used this indecision to persuade Venice to remain neutral. Relations with the papacy developed completely hostilely. Pope Sixtus IV called all of Europe to crusade, declared holy war against the Ottomans. In response, Mehmed promised freedom to Christian minorities in Rome, said they would be freed from the Pope's oppressive policies. With the conquest of Otranto, when the Ottoman army set foot on Italian soil, it plunged all of Europe into panic. Pope Sixtus IV declared a crusade, mobilized the Venetian navy. The Kingdom of Naples went on alert. Mehmed's dream was about to come true. During the siege of Otranto, Mehmed's psychological warfare tactics also came into play. He sent letters to Italian cities, informing them they would be safe if they surrendered, but would face results like Otranto if they resisted. These letters created great panic in Italian cities. In the planning phase of the Italian campaign, Mehmed's strategic intelligence reached its peak. First, he established naval superiority in the Adriatic, then opened a bridgehead in southern Italy, then began to advance north. Every step was meticulously calculated. Throughout this process, his relationships with viziers also evolved. Ishak Pasha was leading the Italian campaign. Messi Pasha was responsible for the navy. Hersekzadeh Ahmed Pasha provided logistical coordination. This teamwork showed Mehmed's understanding of leadership. Mehmed was not only a conqueror, but also a protector of culture and art. He brought scholars, artists, and philosophers from various countries to his palace. Italian painter Gentile Bellini painted his portrait. This portrait was proof of Renaissance art's entry into the Ottoman palace. In long conversations with Bellini, Mehmed learned Italian art techniques and developed his own understanding of art. He supported research in fields such as mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. He had libraries built in Istanbul, opened madrasas, encouraged translation activities. The Fatih Mosque complex was designed not only as a religious, but also as a scientific center. The scholars working there produced the most important works of the era. His ability to write poetry was also notable. He wrote poems under the pen name Avni, and was so productive he compiled a divan. This versatility was the most important feature that distinguished him from his contemporaries. He was simultaneously planning wars and producing works of art. Mehmed's understanding of state governance was also very developed. While establishing a central system, he also considered local characteristics. He included people of different religions and cultures in the administration, favored the talented. This multicultural administration understanding was one of the secrets of the empire's longevity. In fiscal policies, he achieved great success. He made Istanbul a trade center, secured trade routes, made the tax system fair. The empire's revenue sources diversified. Economic power supported military power. Merchants could operate confidently in Ottoman territories. The privileges granted to foreign merchants through capitulation agreements, while damaging the Ottoman economy in the long term, provided great vitality to commercial life during Mehmed's time. Venetian, Genoese, and Ragusan merchants established large trading houses in Istanbul. His diplomatic abilities were also tremendous. He signed mutually beneficial agreements with commercial republics like Venice, Genoa, and Ragusa. He established strategic relations with great states like Hungary, Poland, and France. He became a power influencing European political balances. The alliance he established with French King Louis I was especially remarkable. Thanks to this alliance, the Habsburg encirclement was broken. The Ottomans had a say in European politics. There was even military cooperation between the two countries. French technicians helped in the modernization of the Ottoman army. Border agreements made with Polish King Casimir IV clarified the situation in the north of the Black Sea. Both states accepted their spheres of influence over the Crimean Khanate. This agreement preserved peace for many years. On May 3, 1481, Mehmed suddenly fell ill and passed away. He was only 49 years old and had even bigger plans. He wanted to take Rome, conquer Italy, perhaps advance to Spain. If these dreams had come true, the course of world history would have been completely different. Mehmed's death created great relief in Europe. Pope Sixtus IV had Te Deum prayers read. The Venetian Doge had the bell tower rung. Hungarian King Corvinus organized Thanksgiving ceremonies. His death was perceived in Europe as a great deliverance. Mehmed's legacy is multidimensional and lasting. He was not only a conqueror, but also a state founder, culture protector, and visionary leader. By taking Istanbul, he united East and West, created a center where different cultures met. He made the Ottoman Empire a world power, and this power lasted for centuries. This is the incredible story of Fatih Sultan Mehmed. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Share with us in the comments which characteristic of Fatih impressed you the most. See you in the next video. Goodbye.